Names are very precious, guys. You know, when we talk about names, we're talking about address. When we talk about names, we're talking about words that we can actually know you from. Well, how many of us today around the world actually bear names of colonial figures? Not only colonial figures, but how many of us today around the world have actually lost the significance of our names? How many of us have actually kept the original names of our families? How many of us actually know our real name? How many? Quite a few, hey? I remember Mobutu Seko, this guy over here. I know to you guys, he's a he's a terrorist. He's a detector. You know, all those bad stuff. But either way, this is what he had to say about names, because in 1971 he actually brought up about the thing of authenticity, whereby every black person in Congo should actually go and look for their real names and not bear names of previous colonial figures like Marie France, Marie was this one. Either way, this is what he had to say.
Moi, voyez-vous, je suis zaïrois, africain, bantou. Comment voulez-vous que je puisse porter un nom juif, moi qui ne suis pas juif? Connaissez-vous un seul juif au monde qui porte un nom zaïrois? Et pourquoi moi? Croyez-vous vraiment que ce serait intelligent, pensable de la part d'une jeune fille de mon pays de porter le prénom de Chantal, de Marie-France, de Marie-Flore? Ça veut dire quoi? Hein?
Monsieur le Président, est-ce qu'à travers cette authenticité, vous cherchez également...
Well, that's so true. I mean, how many of us today around Africa actually bear names that do not belong to us? How many of us have kept our authentic self, our authentic names intact? How many of us? That's so true. You never find a white person with the name of a black person, like maybe Susiso, for instance, or with the name Kasongo, with the name maybe Chimanga. You know, you'd never find a white person. And why should it be that a black person should have such a name? You know, I know in the past it used to operate whereby you'd name a child after your master who actually did you bad, in order for them just to soften their anger on you or something like that. Something sort of related. I know that's the reason why you'd name them or give them such names. At home, they're called something else, and when you go with them at work, they are given the English name just to please your master or your boss. Well, either way, fellas, how you doing? Thank you so much for stopping by. You are really appreciated. If it's the first time stopping by, I do not know you. You do not know me. But if you watch this video until the end, you are going to get to know me and the work that I pretty much do. Other than that, just watch this video till the end and just do the most. Just join the family and, you know, let's make this thing a big thing. Well, we're in Senegal, a very beautiful country known for being a cultural country actually. Most of the things around Senegal revolves around culture, from their national dish, which is mafe, which is a very beautiful dish. I mean, you'll bite your hands off if I were to explain it, but it's a very good dish. Dishes like fataya, which is a very nice dish. I know some of the names, I'm gonna murder them. I'm not really good with my pronunciation. And also the theory of giraffe. They're also known for having their own giraffe rice over there, known for having a lot of good, amazing food, and having one of the most tallest people within the continent of Africa. And never forget, they're always darker. They're either blue, black, but that doesn't mean that I'm teasing them. Just a pure joke, just a pure joke. Well, that's what they're actually known for. Very beautiful country. If you guys ever wanna go there, please do take it easy. Lovely people, lovely nation, right up within Senegal. Well, what's happening in Senegal? Well, Senegal recently just celebrated their Independence Day. Happy Independence to you guys, Senegalese. And their I can't sing the real was this, but happy Independence Day to you guys from Senegal. Well, they just recently did that on the 4th of April, just 2025. They celebrated their 65th Independence Day. Well, after getting it in 1960, and what's really happening is that they've actually taken a bold step for them to actually rename street and building names in order to move away from colonial legacy. And why they're doing this is because they believe that these names bear a lot of hurtful memories within the streets of Senegal. Names like General Charles de Gaulle Boulevard to now Mamadou Dia, Well, I'm going to explain that. Well, that's also one of the huge issues that we face in Africa. Many of us don't have our own authenticity. We don't really know where these names come from. You know, you get most African with names of European, with names of Americans, with names of maybe Indians, I would say. I'm not trying to be ethnocentric or any sort of matter like that, but I'm just trying to ask you guys to also reason with me. You know, why would we also carry certain names that do not belong to our cultures, they do not belong to our foundation or our authenticity of where we actually come from? Well, let's just get back to the track. Well, why are they changing iconic street names from names like General Charles de Gaulle Boulevard to Mamadou Dia? So who's this guy, General Charles de Gaulle Boulevard? Well, General Charles de Gaulle Boulevard is actually a French general and statesman who led the Free French force against the Nazi in World War II, and he chaired the provincial government of the French Republic from 1944 to 1946. He also restored democracy in France. In 1958, he was actually made or elected as the French president back in that year, and he also held a position until he resigned in 1969 before his departure just a year after his resignation. Well, who was this guy and how is this guy actually related with Senegal? Well, he's related with Senegal because Senegal is a French colony. Senegal was actually colonized by the French, as we all remember, together with Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, the Congo Brazzaville, and other parts of the maps that you guys actually see. It's actually, they were all colonized by the French. And this guy didn't only have a name in Senegal, he had a street name also named in Burkina Faso, Mali, and all. He played also a role within Senegal while Senegal was actually being colonized, and that was how he was able to get street names to be named after him. That's how Charles de Gaulle Boulevard came about. Well, why are they deciding to change the name if let's say if he was a hero? Well, he wasn't actually a hero. This guy, actually, when France was actually undergoing the World War II against Germany, they actually grouped people of different French colonies to actually bring them together for them to be able to go fight the war all the way in France against the Germans. And what were these guys called? These guys were called the tirés. So the tirés are known as sharpshooter. Please bear with me. I know my French is not really good, mais je fais une petite practice. I'm doing a little practice. Well, the tirés were actually, they're known as sharpshooter, translated in English. So these guys were actually summoned together from all these different French colonies, brought together, sent to France for them to be able to go fight for that war. And there were even instances where these guys actually fought the war barefooted. And the French government stated that these guys didn't actually want to go to war with shoes. They wanted to go to war barefooted. I mean, it's crazy. How would someone account for such a thing that, oh, I'd rather take a coat and clothing and not take shoes? I mean, shoes are key important roles in the war as well. Why would they not want to take shoes? I mean, that's for you guys to actually answer. Well, this is going to be quick. Well, what happened with these guys? Well, what happened? Well, when France won the war in 1944, these tirés were previously, before they were summoned to go fight the war in Africa, they were actually promised heavy means by the French government that if you win the war, we're going to pay you, give you a French passport, you're going to come back to Africa well taken care of, you're going to have a good position in the French army, and all those things. So that basically was the promise and was the deal. Well, what happened with these tirés? Well, these tirés actually, when they won the war in 1944, there was a victory march which was held up in France where they actually celebrated the victory. Well, they decided not to first include these tirés from that victory march because they thought that they were very savage and inferior, because the French military department was also concerned about the political or potential of African soldiers who had to come into contact with Vietnamese nationalist and communist ideas to possess a threat to France's colonial regime in Africa. So that is what they actually thought, that if we allow them, for them to take part within this victory march, they might actually turn on us. They might actually wanna now go to war with us because they're the ones that won the war. But also the other thing is that because they felt that they were inferior to the white people, and they decided to put the French army first as a form for them to just show like they are very strong, they're not inferior, they're the ones that won the war, they're the ones that fought the war. Well, that was basically what happened with these Therese. Well, these Therese didn't actually mind them actually losing the war. When they were summoned back to Africa, because these guys now had to be taken back to Africa, when they were summoned back to Africa, something big actually happened. These guys started protesting and wanting what they were promised. Well, upon their landing in Senegal, what did the French army do? They decided to open fire on all of them, killing over 300 Therese during those periods over there, because they were actually protesting for what they were promised. And when they got killed, the French government tried to hide all that evidence by stating that no, they died in the war, in the German war, and things like that. And that's basically why they were shot. And they were only able to account for that later on in 2012, which was like years and years and years after the war had completed and after they've also been killed and things like that. That was basically how the French actually had to account for it. So it's very sad. Like, imagine you go and work, and then you demand for your salary, and instead of them paying you what you deserve or what they promised you, they end up actually shooting you in the head as a form of thank you. That is basically what happened with the TDAs, and it's quite a very sad issue. The government have decided to change all colonial legacy names or street names after people or iconic people within the streets of Senegal. Well, this is what the president actually thought, that it was actually a good thing, because these local names, which are named after French colonial figures, carry painful historical memories that the Senegalese government aims to erase away from the people. Many streets in Dakar actually and Senegal are originally named after French colonial government to honor officials and royals of the French Empire. I mean, 65 years after Senegal's independence, the capital, political and administrative center still dominated by French colonial era names, including the lasting imprint of 300 years of conquest, slavery and colonial rules. So that is what they're actually planning on doing. And there was even a great survey which was held up in Senegal. About 60% of the country's street names and administrative streets are actually named after French writers and doctors, which is something that the Senegalese they've decided to actually do, for them to erase all those bad memory by changing name. I mean, big ups to you guys. You deserve a round of applause. I mean, we all in Africa also have to just take the charge, and you guys just let me know what you guys think. Why is it that most of us in Africa bear names that actually some of us do not belong to us? You should actually look deeper into that name. Where does it actually come from? And yeah, well guys, just let me know about this thought-provoking video, what you guys actually think. Please, if you made it this end or this far, please do like, share, comment and subscribe for us to be able to make this YouTube channel a big thing. See you guys in the next episode video.